Yeah. Give us a...
Yeah. 1, 2. Have you ever bought or rented a videotape that wasn't quite right? It may have been a pirate copy.
How
I know
old,
the whole thing.
How old are you?
36, almost 37.
Yeah, I'll be 38 in May.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Have you got what you paid for?
I genuinely have, like, I think I was driving when I was 18 and I heard them say it on the radio. They're like, oh, do you remember that? Have you ever bought or rented a videotape that when I went, yeah. And then I just started saying it and I said the whole thing. And I know the whole thing.
Yeah.
Friday night was movie night. It just like stayed in my head.
It's just burned into our...
Yeah. The post office box, like where to write to if it's pirated. It's.
Do you remember that when you would? I remember when I was a kid. Such a different time, and you don't think about how much things have changed in our lifetime. But when I was a kid, I was into skateboarding. I think I was 14, 15, and I wanted a bunch of stickers. And so the way that you got stickers when I was 14 was send an envelope to the address on the skateboard magazine with cash. In the envelope, and they send it back with stickers weeks later, and you just trust that it happens. Just sending cash, off to some
kind of magic,
random, and it was kind of like it was this beautiful, innocent, trusting world.
Yeah,
it's kind of you wouldn't dream of sending cash to anyone these days. Well,
no, I mean I probably would.
Yeah,
just for fun.
Yeah,
just to see what happens.
Keep that kind of that retro way of doing things.
Totally. Getting a birthday card with cash in it. Doesn't it happen anymore?
Yeah,
does anyone
happened.
ever have
From
birthday
Nan.
cards? Yeah, okay.
That one.
Yeah.
That one's always a solid one. You shake the card, see what's in there, see if there's enough that falls out.
Yeah.
Trill, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's nice to get you in and have a chat. Your name?
Trilla.
Trilla.
Yeah, I just changed it.
Did you?
Legally.
Talk to me.
It's actually,
you legally did
it's
it?
actually Trilla
Okay,
Rose Soul now.
Cool. What's the story?
Ooh. Well, my music name was Katie Who for about 10 years, and I started just feeling like I'd reached this point as an artist. And the only reason I came up with that is because people used to chant, Katie Who, Katie Hone. And I was like, when I decided to go with Katie Who, and it was like this question as I was like figuring out my life and my identity, and came a bit of a joke and was like, Katie Who? I was like, yeah. And then the joke got old, like I actually, it's like, I'm not a little kid. I'm kind of done with this. And I've also just felt like for where I wanted to go musically, it was just outgrown, it was done. And I sat with it for about a year. For some reason, Soul Tree Sun came to mind, and that was just like, I'm like, that sounds like a hippie thing. And I was kind of in a little bit of a hippie phase at the time, but it didn't stick. And then, just a few people that I knew told me I needed to do it. They're like, yeah, it's time. Only them. Like everyone was like, no, don't change it. For these people I trusted, were like, no. It's time. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
The hippie calling was...
It was coming, and I just, my partner, Tani, was like, basically helped me come up with Trilla, which was the first evolution of that. And basically that just meant like trill and like the bird, the singing, the sound, the musical trill, and try is 3 and 3 is my number. And it turns out LIAH means lioness, and just all these pieces. I was like, oh, look, all this stuff, great.
Yeah, these
just
are ticking.
Didn't stick though. Like I did this ayahuasca ceremony and I actually asked, I'm like, is it Trilla? I was like, yes. And it was so like, it really landed, and it was actually playing Caloundra Music Festival, and I told them to change my announcement to Trilla instead of Katie Who before I'd announced it anywhere, because it just, something happened and shifted. It was like this power came online. So rolled with that, and it just didn't stick. People were like, should I call you Trilla now? I was like, yeah, if you want. Like it was very
right.
like,
It just didn't quite feel...
It didn't quite feel right, and everyone just kept calling me Trilla by accident. And at first I got mad. I was like, Trilla? What the fuck's that? Like, Trilla? It's Trillia. And then, over time it just, honestly, then I got this gold tooth. It felt like Tani said to me, oh, you should get a gold tooth, because I'd basically had this tooth fall out 3 years ago. It's a very traumatic
the whole
experience.
Tooth fell out.
And I dreamt about it 2 weeks before it happened. Wow. Had to go and facilitate a retreat with no tooth right here.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
One of the front ones. I've chipped the bottom tooth, and I was like, oh, fuck, I've got to get this sorted. But that's...
Teeth are such a big thing, aren't they?
Yeah, because you look so goofy without teeth.
One. Yeah. And I remember when it happened, I was like, oh my God, the first reaction was, oh my God. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm a kid. And then I was like, oh my God, I have no tooth. Like, fuck.
Yeah. The wave of emotions from losing a front tooth.
And I had this denture for like 3. It was horrible. I started just getting pain. It was so horrible.
So it was like
a denture plate.
Right, a plate with one tooth.
Well, it actually had another tooth missing.
Okay.
And then they ended up pulling another one because they're like, well, this one's got to come out anyway. So I just had this like horrendous thing going on. And yeah, my partner just, there she is coming along like, why are you hobbling along? You don't need to do this. It's like, really? I don't have to do this anymore. But how? Like applied for the super, jumped through all the hoops to get my super money to do my teeth.
Okay.
And then
so what were you gonna get? Like implants
just regular
instead?
Yeah, well, this is an implant.
Okay.
And it was just going to be regular tooth, but like as the thing, it was like, why not make it gold?
Fucking
when I told my dentist, he's like, oh, this is fun. This has got so much more fun. Like, yeah, why not?
That's funny.
It took me 24 hours to get on board. I was like, nah, no way.
Yeah, because it's a bold call.
Totally. And I'm like, who would get a gold tooth? Nah.
24
hours later, I went, oh my God, who are you to get a gold tooth?
Yeah.
If we start taking life less seriously, like what does that mean?
Yeah.
And it just felt like this full fuck yes. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get a gold tooth. I can change it. It's an implant. I can actually, if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But
you get a checkerboard tooth if you want.
Totally. Do whatever I want. Just mix it up every year.
Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe as your music goes into whatever kind of vibe it goes through as the years progress, you can kind of get the tooth to maybe if you go through a punk phase, you do get the checkerboard thing.
Totally. Yeah. If I go back to that, I mean, did the red and
punks,
black.
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
punk comes probably before the hippie phase.
Yeah, it did. It was very much 16.
I think it's rare that the punk comes after the enlightened.
Hippie. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do still love getting into that music occasionally.
Yeah, it never goes away.
There's all those parts of us that still exist,
Yeah.
But yeah, as I was saying, the Trilla thing, the day that I got the gold tooth, all these being called Trilla when I wasn't, it just felt like this. Who am I to have a gold tooth? I'm like, oh my God, I'm Trilla. That's actually like the only artists I ever found were like these gangsters. Like
yes, there is something gangster about Trilla gold tooth.
Yeah.
It's kind of rock and roll too.
Yeah, and it means real and authentic. When I Urban Dictionary, and I'm like,
really?
Well, this actually just feels like the no frills, no fuss Trilla. It's just like this is me. It's Trilla, and kept my middle name.
How good.
And then
so you've legit you've done it legally.
I've literally just got the birth certificate the other day, and I had this whole process. What
is the process to change your name?
Just online, just $200 basically. You can change it. You remember that episode of Friends when they changed that?
What was it? Princess
Quinn Slay the banana hammock.
That's right. And the other one was crap bag.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty easy to do it. It's just like it's another bold thing. You're like, oh my God, when life is actually just a game, and all these rules that you think you have, or the ways that you have to live by, like you don't anymore. And I actually
get a gold tooth.
Totally
opens some emotional doors for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, parents are very supportive, even though they don't. They're very like,
Well, I guess there's worse things you could do if the phone call is, Mum, Dad, I got something to tell you.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, what is it? What, you prison?
Yeah.
No, getting a gold tooth.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Totally. Get a grill, get a hole.
Totally.
It's fun. Yeah. My dad's actually a retired dentist. So when I was a kid, I always pretended that I knew everything about teeth. I even remember in primary school saying things to people like, my dad's a dentist. I think I would know, okay? Someone would have anything about their teeth. My dad's a dentist, guys. I've got this.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, the gold tooth, we have our 2-year-old daughter, so we've been watching a lot more Wiggles than I would probably have been watching before.
Sure, yep.
And Anthony, the OG guy.
Is he still there? Is he the only one?
He's still there. He's the only one.
Right.
And he's just like, as time's gone on, he's just gotten more and more silver teeth. And I think that he's actually gotten rid of some now because it got to a point where he was like proper thug. He had like 4 silver teeth, a couple on the bottom, and this big cheesy smile, and he's this older dude with grey hair, and it was just it was a very interesting choice for the lead guy on a children's show to have all these silver. I kind of dig it.
Totally, it's like kids do what you want.
Yeah. So he worked well as do you. You match your jewelry with the tooth now. You can't really do silver.
Basically, no. Well, I actually already switched over to gold. I had that process happen, I switched my nose ring to gold like maybe 9 months ago or a year ago, and was feeling that call. And it's pretty close. This is brass, but like it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Still matches. Yeah, I don't wear silver anymore. I actually Got rid of all the silver rings too.
I tried to do gold for a little while. Laurel bought me a this gold watch, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna swap everything out to gold, and I rocked it for a little while, but it just didn't feel right.
Yeah,
I just couldn't quite do it. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I've gone back to the boring silver.
Yeah.
Does the trick though.
You know, some people are for silver and some are gold.
Maybe I'll get this one pierced. I was thinking, I've seen a lot. I saw a lot of people with the nose ring, especially a lot of people with a double nose ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, thinking about getting maybe, because I haven't done anything like that for ages.
Did you ever have your eyebrow pierced or anything like that?
No.
That was a thing a long time ago.
That was.
I just looked at your face and like, oh, maybe.
I can do the one eyebrow. Maybe that would be that one.
Yeah.
Because this one I can't really
you still got it.
Get too much in there. So we're both musicians. We were talking before about pub gigs. And
the old pub gigs,
the joy and the pain of the pub gigs. And you were saying how the reason I wanted to have a chat with you and get you in is because you have kind of hacked music and the way that you are doing it in a very clever way. So you put on these concerts, right? But it's like, I mean, how do you describe your events that you put on?
Yeah, I started calling them ceremonial rock shows because I genuinely, it was such an evolution of me playing my own shows and putting on house concerts and then putting on little open mics that went with that, and all the ways that it evolved. I started playing in ceremonies. So I actually played in ayahuasca ceremonies and did that and really knew what it meant to be the channel too, right? So for me, it's to get into that space and to actually open the channel and let the flowing, whatever wants to come through. I will channel music at all of my events, on the spot.
Oh, wow.
So that's a part of
you're
it.
Bringing out melodies that you've never never sung, never
sung
practiced.
before, words that just come through that are usually for people in the it's usually some energetic in the space that has to happen. So honestly, it took me years of being like, how? So I do these ceremonies and I love playing with the band and I love looping, I love playing solo and I love mentoring,
Where's
all
the
this
middle?
stuff. How do I put it all together? And I just couldn't figure it out. And I kept getting told it is. It is all together. But I'm I still didn't understand how. I'm but how does it fit together? So these events, we open in ceremony and we open with cacao, which is just a really hard opening. Have you had much cacao before?
One time I went to a breathwork event and we had cacao at the beginning, but that was the only time. And it was not I guess I thought it was going to be a hot chocolate.
No.
That's not what it is. I mean, I guess it is, but it's a
plant medicine, yeah. It's a very hard opening, very thick,
and it's bitter,
yeah.
And it's and you're all right. This is not a pleasurable little tasty drink.
It's the OG chocolate though. It's the magic in that as well. What it does for you if you really just let it. It literally just gives you what you need. So in a space like this, it's just a really beautiful way to drop in with everybody. And the amount of circles I've sat in or song circles I've done, it's I love this element, but I love playing the music and writing the music and doing the rock shows and all of that. So how does it work, right? So starting there, sitting down, everyone dropping in and then sounding and getting their voices, getting them to feel good in the space. And I just have this way that I just feel I can alchemize the energy no matter who is in the room. It's just bringing it into this. That's where the hippie comes out, right? The oneness comes through and you're oh, what is this? And this permission to just be there. When you think about going to concerts and things when you were younger, you went there to express and to dance or jump in the skanking circle or whatever it was.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, kids and young people in general, I don't know where, I guess it's different for each individual, but there's a point where we kind of suppress that, but you look at kids expressing themselves through what an adult would probably refer to as ecstatic dance, or making sounds. Like our little girl, she's just turned 2.
Totally.
She wanders around there. She likes to spin around. She likes to flail her arms around. She likes to just run around the house. She just does things, and it's really beautiful to see the innocence there. It's completely. What's the word?
It's no filter, right?
Yeah, there's no self-awareness. Well, it's not that self-awareness, but it's not a filter.
No blocks.
Yeah.
There's just authentic expression.
There's no reason for it.
No.
Exactly. It's just, this is just a thing that's coming out, and my body's calling me to do this.
Totally. Do you remember doing that? I remember just always like, like making sounds, or like, just like whatever you figured out what you could do. Like, or just like, how could I make sound? Or like, what is this? What happens if I do this?
Yes. Yeah, that's interesting. And I guess as an adult, for the way that I kind of feel it is, there's times when I sit down to write some music. Well, let me rephrase. I don't even sit down to write music. I just hear it.
Yes.
It's a riff usually, because I'm a rock guy. That's kind of how I write songs first, the guitar riff. And it just is there, and I go, oh, fuck, where's my guitar? Quick, because it's going to go if I don't get it out.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes a whole song comes out of that in a matter of minutes.
Totally.
And it's purely about me. I'm just the vessel. I think there's a book called
Big Magic. Have you read that?
No, but there's that one sounds like the same kind of thing. It's about just being able to be open to be the channel, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like I kind of feel bad sometimes, because you get this idea out, and I'm like, wow, this is an awesome song if I say so myself.
Yeah.
But it's almost like I can't take credit for it. I didn't come up with this. I was just,
Totally.
just kind of.
I really resonate with that. And I remember for a long time I said it. I used to be like, oh no, this song was from Spirit. And then I was just like, yes, but everything is ultimately, and it's still coming through us, and we still get to like deliver it, and we still have our way with how it comes out.
Yeah, the flavour that comes.
Totally.
And I'm sure you get this. It's tricky, because there are some songs, that pieces of music, whatever the creative endeavour is, that are just the opposite to that. They just don't. Like, you labour over these things, but for some reason you're like, nah, but it's worth
fixated
it.
on like,
this one, there's something in this. Yeah. And I've just got to finagle it enough times to get it until it's there, and you finally get it across the line and release it to the world, and you're like, ugh, I don't know about you, but I still feel good about those ones. But it is an interesting thing. I feel like those ones are just me, the human, whatever I am, is really just laboured over this thing. And then there's these other ones that are just like, bing, and you don't even really think about them, and they've just become something.
Yeah, I think that's
the same thing.
But the book of Big Magic sort of talks about how it's important to keep that discipline, and that's something I've been trying to work on myself, because most of the songs that you will hear of mine are the ones that have just come through.
Wow.
It happens a lot. So the times that I have like hundreds of half done songs that I still like come back to this one that's like, it's just groovy, and I'm just like, no, still not there. So I still revisit them, but I'm like, it's a full-time job. I need to go through all my voice memos and actually follow through with those ones, because but I do feel like those magic ones, they come all the way out.
There's
like, we have to catch up with them, as it's coming out, right?
Sometimes
like, did I get it right?
Did I miss it? Yeah. It's like a dream, trying to remember a dream.
Have you pulled a song out of a dream before?
I haven't. I've got a good friend. I've tried to, but I don't have the musical literacy. I'm not connected enough to it to be able to hold on. They're too elusive for me. But I have a good mate who he's like a musical genius.
Yeah.
And he's done this thing where he just hears melodies perfectly in his dreams, and wakes up and plays them out on the piano, and he played it to me once. He goes, check this out. And it was weird. It was this odd melody. And I was like, where did that come from? He goes, I was in a dream. I just woke up and wrote it. Can you hang on to them from dreams?
I'm getting there. I've definitely I've had. It's hard. It is really hard just to like.
They slip away.
But the closest I got was actually a couple of months ago, and it was there because I hear the whole thing, like orchestra. Like I actually hear like the whole thing, but I'm like, all right, if I can just grab onto the melody and the line, and the closest I got was a few months ago when I managed to pull out the melody and the words.
Wow.
And there was like 3-4 lines of word, and so I'm like, whoa, to actually pull that, but I had to lay really still. So like I was coming out of sleep and I went, oh my God, this is happening. Okay, don't panic. Like just like
chill,
just wait, and then don't try and sing it yet, because that's when so I just kept repeating it in my head. I could still hear it, and I got my phone with my eyes closed and like quickly opened it, voice memos.
It's like trying to catch a mouse, you know.
Totally. So it actually worked. I just honestly I never listened to it again to see if it was any good. But
right.
like that,
it's in there somewhere.
But there was one time at Woodford and I'd had sunstroke or something. I don't know. I'm laying there and it happened and I'm like, oh, this is the best song ever. Oh my God. So I did the same thing and I grabbed my voice note, but I was half asleep and I recorded it. And the next morning I woke up to listen to it. I was like, what gold was it? And literally it was
rubbish.
Like couldn't even, that my voice was like not even, it was like it just wasn't even, not even me, not even remotely like
sometimes
what I was
they don't translate, do they? Well, just talking about dreaming, have you ever done lucid dreaming?
Yeah, dude. I have some cool stories about lucid
Let's
dreaming.
go there.
Yeah.
Have you? So I did the whole. Did you do the whole? Can you just do it, or did you do the whole practice and learn how to hone the skills?
It was a friend of mine who said to me, because I knew that I'd done it before, but I'm like, but how can I control it and how can I make it happen more and how can I do the healing in it? Because I heard that it's a modality for healing and that you get to face off with fears and you get to do these things that you can't do in real life, right? So she told me that you look at your hands and you just say, am I dreaming? And you do that as many times as you can remember. So just looking at your hands, she said your fingers will never look the same.
That was the same one that I used. Mine was similar. Mine one was count your fingers. As many, they call it a reality check. Right. So when you're awake, because you can't count when you're dreaming. There's something about reading and counting and clocks. You can't read the time.
They warp. Yeah.
And so for me it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm awake.
Yeah.
Whereas when you do it in your dream and you think, hang on, this is peculiar, am I dreaming? For me it was, there's an extra finger and it's kind of floaty.
Yes.
Or there's something wrong about my finger. And then that was the first step.
Yes.
Doing those.
The first step.
Yeah.
But that comes all the other stuff, right? I had the same thing. I didn't know about the counting. That was just something that I did because I looked and they said my hands would never be the same. Right. So I just started going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm dreaming. So, but then you get excited and you can wake up. Well, that's what I learned too. So I was like, it was this process of being like, and the first lucid dream I actually had, I did some inception shit. I didn't even know. I actually did all the things that keep you asleep and I was trying to wake up.
Oh, wow.
So actually like the first thing happened, like my leg was gaping open in this dream, right? And there was all this stuff coming and like bugs and I'm like, no, this isn't real. Counted my fingers and I was like, okay, I'm sleeping. Okay, wake up. And I threw myself through a window, like backwards to try and wake up. Went into a deeper dream. Something else happened. Did the same thing in a different way. I held my eyes closed or whatever it was that I thought was going to wake me up. And it didn't. It sent me into a deeper dream. And then I was like stuck in this dream.
Because you have to be careful because you can get into like sleep paralysis. Which I've never been in, but that sounds kind of close.
It was pretty close. I woke up to my partner. I was on the couch somehow, and like I was like, "Whoa, thank God you just woke me up," because I couldn't wake up.
Wow,
and I was
that sounds like sleep paralysis.
Yeah, so
because you know you are not awake, but you can't get out of it, and that's some scary shit.
Some scary shit.
And we have no idea what that is.
Yeah,
you know, like as far as my understanding goes, we don't know what's going on with that. You're just in this like consciousness loop. A friend of mine was doing it and he had this experience where he was asleep and he became lucid that he was asleep. He knew he was lying on a couch and he fell off the couch and then he woke up but he was still on the couch asleep. And so he fell off the couch again. And then so it just created this loop and he just couldn't stop falling off the couch but really he was just lying there asleep. Yeah. And just like in this torture of this mind is creepy, right?
Yeah,
and then,
something
woke him up outside and he managed to get out of it.
It's a lot.
It's creepy stuff.
I managed to like not have another lucid nightmare though, like from there. Like I think I like after finding out those are the things that keep you asleep, I was like, okay, now I know how to not stay asleep or if I want to, I can, you know? So there was a while there over about a year period where I could just every time, but I just always go flying. That's my first impulse.
Why wouldn't you?
So I'm like, I'll just go flying. I started doing healing stuff. And I'm like, I just want to fly. So every time I count 6 fingers, I'm being chased by some crazy thing and I'm on this cliff. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. And then I just fly, have the best time, forget I'm dreaming. Actually, while we're still on this subject though, I rang my friend once in the lucid dream.
Oh,
and she was in Sedona in America, which is a very like spiritual place.
She was physically living?
She was physically there at the time on holiday. And I called her in my dream and I went, hey, Laura, I'm I'm dreaming right now. And she's like, oh, yeah? And I was like, no, seriously, you can hear me, can't you? She's like, yeah. It's like, no, I know you can understand what I'm saying. She's like, I hear you. It's like, okay, let's play. Like, this is so weird, but you've got to look up lucid dreaming. Like, it is, we're onto something here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hear what I'm saying. Just take this with you. Like, remember this. Look up lucid dreaming. She's just like, okay, I will. I'm like, all right, I'm going to hang up now. It's fucking weird. I love you. Talk to you later. Talk to you in real life. And I tried to call her in real life for like 3 days and we couldn't get a hold of each other. And then finally we got a hold of each other and I'm like, dude, I spoke to you in my dream the other night and like told her the story and she's just like, when was this? And we like worked out the time, like what time would have been for her, where she was. She's just like, nah. And I'm like, well, what is it? She's like, I turned up to this house to stay there and there was a library there in the house and out of all the books, I grabbed this one book and it was How to Lucid Dream. And I'm like, that's the moment I was telling her about it. I'm like, cool. Like, it's fun to talk about, right? Because we don't really understand how we like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like astral traveling. Have you done that before?
Look, I've tried. Here's the thing with this stuff. Like I try to, I'm like really far one way, 50% of me, and really far the other way. Half of me is like so skeptical.
Yeah.
And just like, this is nonsense.
Totally.
But the other half of me is just like, yeah, but we don't know what the fuck's going on, do we? We've got no idea what's going on. Yeah. So that story, now I wasn't there. I don't know. I believe you.
Let's get her on the phone.
Let's get her on the phone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's, I've had experienced things like that happen in my life and that's it's always like, ooh, this is some stuff that we're not taught about. Yeah. Not here in the West anyway.
Totally.
The astral travel, right? So for, again, so skeptical, but there was this practice that kind of goes along with the lucid dreaming where I learned about this thing where if you lie when you're sleeping and because you want to get into what we know as the hypnagogic state, which is the state kind of between consciousness and sleep. So it's when when you get the leg kick, when you're just about to fall asleep or something, you got to catch something and then it wakes you up. And it's that. That's the hypnagogic state. So you're kind of in between. So from my understanding, what you do is when the hypnagogic state is pretty strong, the closer you are to waking up in the morning, so like 4 a.m., so so I believe what the trick is, this is what I was practicing this to get into the astral plane, it was like 4 a.m, I'm lying in bed and what you're supposed to do is when you are lying there and about to go to sleep, your body does things like moves. You want to roll over. Now, you don't consciously go, I'm going to roll over now or I'm going to shift my arms or do anything. You just do it. And if you observe it, you go, oh, yeah, my body does that. And apparently what is happening is that's your physical, your consciousness connecting itself to your physical body and telling you that you're awake or you're asleep. So by moving, you then know, oh, okay, I'm actually doing this. And the fluid in your ears moves and your equilibrium shifts so you know you're awake or asleep. Yeah. So if you resist the urge to move while you're, close to sleep, you can get to different places. Now, I did this one time and it was so painful. It's not painful, like uncomfortable. Yeah. I'm lying there. I feel like it was like for 45 minutes and I'm resisting the urge to move. And apparently what it does is it confuses your consciousness to think that, oh, I'm sleeping. Because when you're sleeping, you don't, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but your consciousness thinks you're sleeping. Yeah. Your mind is actually not sleeping. And I started to get this thing where there was this like pulsing through my body. My hands, it felt like it was just this throbbing pulse going all the way through my body, out the ends of my hands and boom, boom, boom. And it got faster and it got more powerful and it scared the shit out of me. I don't know what it was, and I held on as long as I could, and I'd been doing it for like 45 minutes of just resisting the urge to move, and then this pulse, and I bailed out. I don't know where I was going to go or what it was going to take me to, but I was like, I don't know. I'm scared. So I bailed out.
Totally. And, like it's anything that's that scary too. There's often a lot of magic on the other side, but it's like, can you let go? Can you can you let go to this unknown, this thing that you it's like touching God, right? Or whatever that is. Is this like, whoa.
This is nothing like anything in the conscious world that I'm used to. I guess it's like why psychedelics are so intriguing because you go to places where you go, how did I not know this existed? This is a whole different version of being alive, or experiencing reality. It was like that, but I wasn't on any psychedelics. I was just like...
No, but that's the part the chemicals in our brain already are, right? We already have DMT and we already have these, chemicals. So it's just...
So what's your experience with astral travel?
Not that. That's really cool. I love that you did... Well, I didn't know anything about it. One of my good friends... had told me that she did it with her partner, and it was like they got told that you've really just got to memorize their face and like things like that. And she was in a ceremony and he visited her, or they start visiting each other, and she was like, "Oh, did you come to the gym today? I saw you wearing your blue shirt and blah blah blah." And that's what he was wearing, and he's like, that's where he saw her too. Like he went, so that cool shit. And I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Like this is just like a weight like awake stuff."
Teleporting.
Yeah, almost like teleporting. What is this? So the belief that I had from that because of her, I was like, that's cool. Okay, I believe that now, because I was pretty skeptical too. I'm like, watched Charmed when I was a kid. But
and all this stuff, like you kind of, I just feel like I'm not going to dismiss anyone for if they're saying that this happened to them, but that doesn't mean I have to believe that it's real until you have your own experience, and then you can go like, you know who Terence McKenna is? Yeah. Terence's quote was something along the lines of, "Nobody knows what's going on. It's all bullshit. It's just the direct presence of felt experience." That was his.
You did that well, yeah.
Thank you very much. I listened to far too much Terence McKenna, and that was his kind of thing. Is like, it's a good point. If you that's really all you can trust, and even then, it's like, we still don't know how legitimate it is, but at least it happened to you, and you know that it happened.
Yeah.
So like being able to see what someone else was wearing in a completely different place. It's
and
like,
because that wasn't me too, I thought the same thing. I'm like, well, I believe her. I believe that happened, but I'm not her. Like, is that ever, And,
I'd love to have that experience myself.
And totally. And so I did. In a way, I was at this retreat, and it's a very long story, so I'm going to not go into the full thing, but essentially I was told I would meet this woman from a psychic.
Okay.
And I did. Like, as soon as I walked up to her, I'm like doing the music at this retreat. She was a participant. I just walked right up to her. "Hey, how are you?" Gave her a hug and was like,
hang on. So how specific is this psychic about this woman?
Told me certain details about her, like about her life and things that I would...
So you recognised it?
No. So I something in me went, how do I... Well, no, it hadn't clicked yet. That was, that psychic thing had happened a few months before. So it wasn't like I went, oh, that's this woman. I just knew that I knew her. There was just this feeling. So the whole retreat, I just like felt this like, what is that? Like, and it kind of unraveled, and it turned out that it was. And the synchronicities are off the chart, and I will not honestly go into it, but there are so many. But this one particular thing that happened was I just could feel her, and we said goodnight, and she went down to her room, and I stood on the balcony, and I just like, I could just feel her, and I was like, this is weird. And I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I just like teleported. Like I went, and then I was just holding her. Like we were just holding each other.
Whoa.
And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like I knew I was like standing on this balcony, but I like went to this place, sober, to the room, fully sober. And then I came back to my body where I was standing on the balcony. I was just like, well, that felt real. I don't even know who this woman is. Like, this weird. Like, what was that?
Like a dream, but a waking dream.
Totally. So I just sort of let it go. And the next morning I woke up and she was sitting outside of the room.
Same place.
No, the person from that, the same person that I just traveled to do that. And then I told her. I told her what happened. No, actually, I didn't tell her in that moment. Anyway, this is, again, we're not telling the whole story, so there's many missing pieces here.
Sure.
But I just basically said to her, like, 24 hours later, I was like, I did you know that I visited you? And she went, yeah. And I was like, what? She's like, you came in behind me and then you held me, and I'm like, ooh. Whoa. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where do you go deep? Like, either way, fucking cool experience, right? You're just like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like what are we capable of, right? And that's the thing. That's why, psychedelics are banned, all the things. Like, what really, as a human race, like, you know, like, what are we capable of?
That's I have that question so much. Like one of the things that, well, from a scientific perspective, psychedelics, and I may get this wrong, but if you have a better understanding, let me know. But it seems as though what they do is we have our senses on a biological, physical level have basically a spectrum of that we can experience, that we can decipher, right? And when you take certain psychedelics or even any substances, not even necessarily psychedelics, probably alcohol, caffeine, whatever, but psychedelics especially, that spectrum widens so that our ability to take in information is greater. So we're experiencing more information and different information than we are usually capable of doing, because constantly our consciousness,
filters are so open.
We're filtering. That's right. Yeah, it's a filter. And the filter is widened. And I think that just makes so much sense once you've done it, because to analyze what's happening, you kind of, I don't know about you, but I always feel as though, and it's been a while for me, but I feel as though I'm experiencing things that are just always there.
Yes.
That it's not like, I don't feel like that whole thing you see in cartoons and the depiction of hallucinations and psychedelics and tripping. It's a fun way to try and make it appear, but it's not what it's about.
The veil just gets lifted, hey? Yeah. And you're just like, oh, I know this.
Yeah.
Right? I remember this.
It's there. Yeah, exactly. I remember this. That's fascinating that you say that, because when I did DMT, that was the immediate feeling that I had first. It was complete fear. And I was like, this was a mistake. I should not have done this.
Is this just DMT or 5-MeO?
This was just regular DMT, smoking that. And immediately I was like, oh no, this was a mistake. I should not have done this. And then and immediately I was overwhelmed with what I can only describe as love and belonging. I remember going, oh, I'm home. I'm back. Which is, it just, the whole, and you get this thing called synesthesia, where your senses cross over. So the smell, I felt the smell of the DMT. Yeah. And the feeling was love. The feeling of that smell was love.
Yeah, no, dude, you taste colours and all the things, right? Like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really resonate with that.
It's
and love is like really the middle of everything, like the center of it all. Like a friend of mine, his son passed away a few years ago, and this one day he came up to me, he's like, hey, Angus visited me, and he said he found the center of the universe, and it's just like,
how good.
It's like, well, of course it is.
How
like
good.
Of course it is. Not even it's like just this like vibration and this sound. And when I did my 5-MeO, that was the only time I did that Bufo medicine. It was a massive, potent, insane experience that I had. Like,
yeah, tell me about
the way
that.
that changed my life.
I've heard a lot about it. I've never done it, and it seems to be.
I still feel like, ooh, like, when would I be ready to do that? It's one of those things. Like, I don't know if I'll ever do it again. Like, I'm open to it, but it was like very.
Really crack you open, right?
Yeah, and they say it always works. Like, the medicine always works with you before you do it, if like when you agree to do it. It's like somehow. So the day that I paid my deposit and agreed to do it, I ended up having this wave of inspiration happen at my house, and I like found my broken keyboard. I was teaching myself keys, but it had no G's and D sharps like the whole way. So I was like, all right, well, fuck it, I don't need them. I'll just do it without them.
Yeah.
And then I like
who does need G's and D sharps? They're the worst notes anyway.
I wrote this song as I was like before bed, and I'm like, oh my God, this is something. Whoa, what is this? And I like got so tired that I promised myself, like I couldn't stay awake anymore. And I'm like, I will wake up and I will finish this song. Like, and so the next morning I woke up and I actually microdosed LSD and I grabbed my keyboard, this little djembe, and I found this harmonica. Everything just happened, even it happened to be in the right key as the song. I'm like, what? So I just started playing it all together. I was like, if I split this keyboard and I can play this with one hand and I can play this drum and I can do this, and I just created this song that I ended up playing in the Bluesfest busking comp, and it got me through, like I got second and got to play on the big stage at Bluesfest with this broken keyboard.
Wow. Did you play the actual keyboard? Without the G's and D sharps.
Yeah, but made the judges cry, all this stuff. But in the time that happened, like I wrote the song, then I journeyed. I think it was only like a week before Bluesfest. So by the time I journeyed, then I went into the competition. So I was not the same. Like it was the first time I ever performed where I was just like, oh my God, where's my ego at all? Like, why don't I have any fear? I'm not worried about playing the wrong notes of this song, or like the fact that I'm playing this broken keyboard and doing this weird, like, what? I'm here for, I know why I'm here. It was just so clear. And I had the entire room, like I just the judges cried, and it was just like this thing that happened. And I'm like, wow, like that's kind of what it had done in a way for me, the way it opened. When I actually had the medicine, same thing, that fear. The first thing that happened was I'd already watched as well all the participants. It was a retreat, so 20 people. I'm like, whoa. And then I'm like pretty much second last. And I'm like,
no pressure.
That's a lot. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So like by the time it happened, luckily I had a friend who she was like co-facilitating. So, okay. And so had it. And then as soon as that happened, I just went, oh no. I literally went, no, it's too much. And the guy just went like, you are safe. And I went, okay.
Let it go.
I let go. I just went, okay. And
isn't that interesting though? The instinct is, this is different. I need to get off. I need to get off the ride.
The resistance, the human experience is insane. So it just opened and went to this grey space. Like I actually just dropped into, I always like call it like the lungs of the universe. It's like I could feel everything. There was no good and evil. It was just power. It was electricity. It was love. It was just everything. And I was like, whoa. Like, and I couldn't breathe anymore. Like I couldn't feel my body, right? Because I was completely, that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh, where is my breath? Like, I was like, I'm not in my body anymore. Like, where am I? And like, this place. And so when I came out of that and like felt every blade of grass, and like it was this rebirthing that happened that it took me so long to integrate it, because I still was driving around the streets just looking at the houses like, what is everyone doing? Like, why are they all in these boxes? Like, where am I? Like, this like,
rocks
just weird, this world that we live in. Like
this systems like, that we've voluntarily created.
Totally.
And you understand why when you take psychedelic substances and have those experiences, which are more often than not provided by nature, from a frog, from a mushroom, from a plant, even cannabis. Yeah, you learn that it's just fascinating that these experiences provided by nature hand these epiphanies to you. Yeah, it will never cease to amaze me that they bring you into yourself, and your humanness and the human experience, even though they seem so out of body and so whimsical at times and mystical.
This teaches.
Yeah. It really is, and it's such a shame that it's and we know why. Yeah. But the fact that it's just so demonized, the system would crumble.
It almost did with COVID, right? Were you excited when that happened? Like, oh my God, everything's going to shake up and everyone's going to know.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It was like, wow, this is, let's see what happens. Even with like Donald Trump getting elected.
Yeah. I was in America then.
Oh, were you there?
Randomly?
Yeah. So was I actually. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. At the very beginning of the term. And I remember, and don't get me wrong, I think he's I have no desire to have anything to do with that man. I think he's really toxic. I think he's awful. I think he's arrogant. I think he's rude. But there was part of me that was like, fuck yeah, let's see what happens. You know, like he's not the mold of the normal people that are in charge because like I just have lost complete faith in that system completely.
Yeah, totally.
So like fucking oath, let's see what happens to Donald Trump. And people want that man in there.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
You know, like
it's always like everything's a question, right? We've learned to just do that. And when you question everything, that's what makes it dangerous because you just see through the veil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what?
It's really it really is fascinating, these places that the psychedelics take you to.
And also other things, like other substances become, you know, mushrooms become more like an ayahuasca journey when you've done ayahuasca, and like you can tap into these places based not even with the same medicine and same teacher. It's like the pathways are there or something. And you know, recently, I'd love to share this little story from New Year's Eve. I had a journey with my partner at Woodford, and we actually had MDMA, and it's just not something, you know, we've done in a very long time. It's like very like super just like, you know, the whole festival, nothing. And then New Year's Eve, we're like, all right, let's do this, you know? So we had it.
So look, let's just break that down, what that actually is supposed to be, actual MDMA. It's very different to ecstasy, whatever that is. There's no like, you really shouldn't be having any like, you know, shouldn't be an upper. It releases more serotonin.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
And it helps like heal depression, all kinds. They use it for therapy. So I was actually going to do some MDMA therapy. I was really called to it. And then I just thought, no, I really trust myself too. Like I just feel like it was calling me for ages. And I bought them months before. I just was waiting, you know, for this moment. I was like, oh. And then there it was, the end of the year. That day, everything was just like there. I could feel this density, this heaviness. And I literally had this existential crisis like the day before or that morning, just being like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like, why am I here? She's like, it would feel like, no, like on the planet. Like what am I doing here? Like one of those moments. And so that night, you know, it happened. We were committed to trying to see this act, and we're running through there. And then she's like, babe, I was like, okay, let's go. And I walked out there, and then she's like, whoa! She starts running up the hill. I'm like, of course, like this pure being, like just completely overcome with that. And I'm like, cool, okay, what's going to happen? So then, and I thought I was fine. I was like, I'm pretty normal. Actually, I think it was just pretty mild.
Hadn't kicked in yet.
And then I set up, and then I'm like, oh,
here we go.
Whoa. So like, okay. And then I sat down, and she's just floating around like a fairy, and I'm like, she's like, you, I'm like, and I was like, what is this? Okay, so instead of that feeling, which I've noticed that fear, right? When that fear comes on with anything, it's like it didn't happen. It was like I found the edge of fear and went, oh, just open.
Relax.
Just open. Just open. Like, what is this? It's just open. Just open.
And you that's a healthy place because it's a ride that you can't get off.
Totally. That's, you know.
So like
resistance is what makes any trip anything bad, right?
Futile. Yeah.
So yeah.
Embrace it or.
And yeah, in that moment I had no idea what was about to happen. It ended up being this full plant medicine journey. For a start, like the first thing that happened for me was that this mantra just came through. And I'm sitting there and I was like, whoa. And it was just love, right? I'm like, and I just could feel this power, this love that was surging through me, and these words, so simple. Just like I grabbed my phone to record it because I'm like, what is happening? It's just this channel was open, right? And I just start singing. And at this point, like she was floating around, and then she heard me, so she just came and stopped and sat and listened. And I just started singing. I was like, love is here now. And then again, I was like, love is here now. No more fear now. Love is here now. It was just like, so simple, right? I'm like, it was this finding, this remembering, like we said, right? The remembering of that place, but just like what was about to happen. And we went on a journey. She became Mother Ayahuasca.
Wow.
Basically. She became this truth oracle and was just like, let it go. Like all these patterns, you know, like all this self-work we do and the stuff that we're improving on and trying to let go of. It's like everything came to a head. It was a full moon. I had my period, which I wasn't supposed to. It was like all this stuff about letting go. Like it all just came on New Year's Eve.
Wow.
And there we were in this journey. And she's this truth oracle. And she's like, come on, baby, stay open, stay with me. I love you. Okay. And so we started, like my wings felt like they came out and we just started flying. And I'd had that happen in other spaces before, like what they talk about with your wings. It's just like the feeling of that actually happening. And like I had this meditation once where I could see this golden light that was me, like going over the globe in this meditation. And I went, whoa, that's my music. That's my medicine. That's my voice. That's what that is. And all the stuff standing in the way of that, you know, like people say all the time, oh, like for my whole life, like, why aren't you famous? Or like, how are you, all that stuff. And you're just like, I don't know, you know, you don't really know how it works. But one thing I know is that, that remembering and that voice being that channel and my music being that medicine, it's just like, they're the epiphanies that I need to keep happening too, because I need to remember that. You know, I get messages from people on Christmas Day. I had messages, oh my God, this is a really hard day for me. And your song is like, say, you know, when that sort of stuff, when you're like,
this is the reason, this is the place.
It's doing the thing. Yeah. And just to like, the tangents of that. But the plant medicine, I call it plant medicine. It's not, but it's a medicine, you know, it's a medicine. Yeah. And the way having it used right and having it in that safe place, like we didn't go back into the festival. We stayed on this hill. Yeah. And then at midnight, it's like the whole festival's like 10, 9, and we're like letting go of this pattern like this, like pulling it up, going, Happy New Year. And we're like, oh, we just.
It's amazing.
Great.
And it's funny, you know, if anyone was watching you, they'd be like, these people are fucking crazy.
Totally. There were police there too. Yeah, we're just doing this. And then totally. Who knows how it looked, but it was a full journey, man. It was a full journey. So like to access that from that, you know, people would call that a drug. It's like, I stopped calling drugs a long time ago. If I ever had anything like acid or whatever I did, it was always to learn. That was the fun in that. The fun was in the evolution, in the, learning this thing about yourself, or like this other thing that I remember you actually listened to that podcast I told you of yours with Laurel, and you talked about the sand on your shoes or something so simple about trying to get the dirt off your shoes and then being like, wait, I can just get home and do it. And just it was the simplest thing. And those epiphanies that carry everywhere. They give you access, right, to actually just knowing how you can better your life. Stay open, be in pleasure. What's
the
that
problem?
Simple? Like,
you know, and really cool to hear that it's helped you find the path for your musical creations, and not in any way surprising, because how many similar, almost identical accounts to that have we heard throughout history? You know, or some of the most. Probably majority of the most groundbreaking musicians and styles of music, you know, Hendrix, the Beatles.
It's found through psychedelics.
It's found through psychedelics. Through experiencing new experiences that happen to have come through them through plant medicine or psychedelics. Yep. It's just so consistent. Yet it's still, you know, mainstream belief around. I mean, it's changing, but the mainstream old school belief around it is that it's going to make you go crazy. Yeah. Now, there's a time and a place, and that is a concern if you are being irresponsible.
Totally.
But that's not.
It is. And it's like young kids, you know, even with males especially, I had no idea that 80% or something of males like smoking weed and doing things from age 14 to 20, like they have more of a risk of develop. So it's not like that. It's
but
like,
people need to know that. That's a problem.
They need to know. They don't know that. That's the problem too, right? Like they need to know when to do it, how to do it. Say, hey, welcome to Earth. We've got all these plants and these teachers, but like we've got to do them in the right way. Otherwise you can fuck your life up.
Exactly.
So if you just come with me, we'll like be able to show you all your potential.
The rules. And you can break them if you want, but it's at your own risk.
Yeah.
You know, because people are going to. People are going to do that whether you make it illegal or not. This is the other thing that I always wonder about. The making drugs in general illegal. I don't know how you feel about this, but it doesn't work, because if what the purpose of it is to stop people doing them because the powers that be are worried about our well-being, which is the reason that they tell us, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Now,
I think it's opposite.
Yeah, I don't for a moment believe that that's the real reason why they do it. But yeah, it's like if you want to get meth or heroin or the worst ones that don't teach you anything, you can do it. The reason that I'm not a heroin addict is not because it's illegal. It's because I don't want to do it. And that goes for anyone. You can get it easily. So there's obviously money to be made in the fact that that those substances are illegal. Yeah. So that kind of cooks my brain a little bit.
Well, I believe that it can sound so conspiracy, right? I'm the same as you, I think, in the sense that I believe all this possibility of how things are, and I'm also not attached to it. So it's like I don't get caught in like conspiracy stuff, but I do think about things, thinking like,
I love to dive into them with one foot out,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, let's go, it's okay, I'll hit you out.
Yeah, it's like, is there really to keep everyone contained? Surely, like they're got to be trying to keep everyone low level in a sense, or like in what ways do they do that? Yeah, well, with society, and it's like through drugs, through things. Like if everyone was just enlightened and stuff, like it's not good for whatever reason for them.
Yeah,
right?
What's society? That's a great point you made before too. Like what does a community look like where those things are celebrated? And as you said before, what are we capable of? And I've asked this so many times on the podcast, but it's like something that I ask all the time.
Does anyone know?
Yeah. Come talk to me, tell me. Totally. What are we actually capable of?
Yeah.
You constantly hear stories about things like astral travel, and I'm like, bullshit, but is it? I don't know.
The cleaner that we are, and it's like, how much do you believe about cloud seeding or like all these other things that are going on, right? But like the cleaner that we are, the more, like my partner Tani just has this thing she calls the pleasure state, and I've just seen it and I've felt it, and I've been like, when you can actually just strip away all this other stuff and remember this, like the highest frequency is love, right? It's like there is so much our society is built with all these other stuff that's going to bring it all, dampen it all down. It's
squash.
like it's just like that. And it's otherwise, I don't know, how would it be? Like I guess the people with the power wouldn't really like that.
Yeah, it's an intoxicating drug, power. It's well, and when you learn about deep states of meditation and how people your consciousness can get to a place of, well, even a relatively shallow state of meditation. Anyone who's ever tried to meditate, the point that you learn at the beginning is you're attempting to observe your thoughts and observe the chatter that just goes on. This was something that really kind of, I had an aha moment with meditation and with my own mind. I was reading some article and it said, here's a little challenge. Tell yourself for the next 10 seconds, I am not going to think any thoughts. I'm just going to have a clear mind. That's your conscious intention. And then set a timer, do it. And you do it and it doesn't work. You have thoughts. And then it said, okay, so if you had some thoughts, you know that was not you consciously. That was just a pattern, a thought pattern that just bounces around your mind all the time. So you can actually detach from that. Yep. And that, when I read that, I remember thinking, this is interesting. I don't have to be my thoughts. I can actually detach from them and just observe them. Yep. And that really kind of, I was like, oh shit, this has really changed everything. Yeah, so like that was one of the first ones when I thought, okay, so that's like the opening level. Yeah. What happens beyond that? Where else do we go when we can understand that there's all these patterns of chatter that just goes on? You can quiet those down. You can be, you don't have to be a slave to your emotional state. You don't have to be a slave to your impulses. Yeah,
it's a journey though. Like we're just filled with all the patterns, like everything in it. It's almost like, do you feel like there's so many? It's like I don't know the percentage of people, but it doesn't feel like there's that many of us that are like in that wave of consciousness of being as aware of these patterns. It's definitely getting bigger, right? And it's like a lot of people I know. Like this is like, wow, this is a whole other world where people don't know that they're in patterns.
You know what that's a good point. You know what I have found though? I feel as though more people than I had originally thought are actually intrigued about that.
Yes.
I think that a lot of people don't know about that kind of thing, but I just kind of come out with it.
Yeah,
and
they get it too. There's a lot of people actually can understand what you're saying. And they're like, oh, right, and that makes sense.
People that have never been exposed to this kind of thing, quite often you see that it kind of lights them up, even though they don't have a lot of input because they haven't ever been there or done anything like that. Yeah, people get it on potentially just a deep existential level, and they're like, oh, this is some interesting stuff that I've never heard before. Yeah. So it's, I don't think that, definitely not a majority of people are into that kind of thing and exposed to it, but I do think that people actually respond to it better than I had initially thought they would. I kind of felt quite alone when you first go on this journey.
Totally. Well, it's like you're faced off with all of your, it's a fuckery, really. You're like, whoa, look at all these, and even
there's
when
stuff
you think,
I can let go of
and
that
the ego's
isn't
like,
me.
And you're like, wait, I'm still doing it. Oh, I'm just in this pattern. That's like when you can detach, right? And
I thought this was my identity. I can let go of that. Yeah. But that means, because it's a death in a way.
Oh, mate, how many deaths, right, do we constantly have? It's the journey. I had one the other day. I genuinely, that was the day I got my new birth certificate too.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, this is interesting, the day that this arrives.
It shook you up a bit?
I end up having this full plant medicine journey without plant medicine.
Yeah, right. The floodgates have been opened.
Yeah, it was like, oh, man, the whole thing had happened. And then, Tani took me outside and she just helped me. I was on the earth and I was letting, could feel it. Could feel the things that are there's so many parts, and people can call them entities or whatever they call them, right? But it's just ultimately there's all these parts of ourselves that are, somehow separated or confused or trying to figure it out, and we just keep having these deaths and rebirths constantly. I remember the first one I had that I was aware of was at a plant medicine ceremony, but I used to do just the music and co-facilitation stuff for it. So I was brought in to play music, and I had this journey with mushrooms where I was like, oh, I'm dying, and I was walking away from the group. The entire group is singing along to this song that was on that is literally, kid you not, rest in peace. Oh wow! I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And I went off.
It's almost
to die.
more creepy because it's so beautiful.
Totally. So I went off to die, and then I still remember being like, the times there was a guy there. He's like, no, it gets easier. And I was just like, but I'm okay. Because I actually thought I had to go to hospital. I was genuinely like, no, I'm dying. It felt that physical. And now when it comes on, it's like, oh, here's another death.
That's hilarious. You're just talking about dying in the camera.
Yeah, the camera's like, oh, well, speaking of, lights out.
Here we go. Yeah, that's not, well, you're talking about synchronicities. There we go. Did
you ever feel afraid of death? I found that for me, that 5-MeO experience, that got rid of that. Or I mean, it's not that it got rid of it, but it was like, oh. And so the more I have the ego deaths too, it's just just this feeling of the relationship to what dying is. It's realizing, I feel like I've lived 1,000 lives already, just in this life, not past lives or whatever else, just in this one, in the last few years, right? The amount of that's what's been funny being a semi-public figure in the community, right? Being people seeing it. Oh, look, she changed her name. She's just and I'm welcome.
This is me. This is the chaos of my life.
We're all just dying constantly and being reborn into these higher versions of ourselves, or trying to, live our highest timeline, or be in our best selves without the shit.
That's what, when you say, being afraid of dying, that is when I am afraid, is when I feel. So I would like to think that when the time comes when I am going to die, I will be able to have the mindset to go, okay, this is happening.
Open.
I have to embrace it.
Don't resist, because that'll take you to hell.
Yeah, I'm going to die now, and here we go. This is happening because it's inevitable. I mean, I don't know if I'm it's something that here in our culture we don't really embrace, but it is going to happen to everyone you have ever met, and now is my time. I'd like to think that that's where I'll get to, but fuck, who knows when the time comes. But the thing that scares me about that, right, sitting here in front of you now is when I think, oh no, but I haven't lived up to my potential.
Oh, yeah.
That really rocks me. And when I think about that, from time to time, that's the kick in the ass that I need.
Totally. That's the fire, right? That you go, oh, what if there is this one life?
Yeah.
As much as we believe, I don't know if you believe in reincarnation, but it's like I've had things before and had a past life regression and been so certain of other things, but at the same time, we still don't know anything.
Yeah, no,
so
we've got no idea.
So if this is our only life and we're here, and if you're lucky enough to know or to feel like you know why you're here or to have something to give that is like, connects you to spirit or whatever, or helps heal people like through music, it's like we're pretty lucky, really, that we play music, right? It's just like the universal healing medicine for the entire world.
It is. And I feel like you are doing you are further ahead on the journey that I am with finding a really healthy place to express yourself musically, So the way that I was introduced to you and your music was through my wife, Laurel. She came to one of your events and she was quite apprehensive about it because, it's not a normal gig, when we've both done more than our fair share of normal gigs and they can get pretty stale, as we were talking about before, doing pub gigs, and you're kind of like, oh, fucking hell, I'm sick of these. You don't want to be there. Some people don't want you to be there. It's kind of like
it's weird, isn't it?
It can be
like
weird.
when you're an incidental thing. When you're just there and you're like, oh, I can feel that. You have people like block their ears, and you're like,
or you start playing a song and they go, no, I can't believe you've played that.
But ticketed shows, that's another thing,
different
right?
thing.
Like when you actually have those people
Original
that come,
music.
original music, and that's
the better
gold.
place.
Totally.
But that's hard. That's a really difficult thing to maintain. But you've found a formula that seems to be kind of working. Like, and I said to Laurel when she came home from your event, and she'd explained it to me. She said it was, and please correct me if I mischaracterized the event, but she said, Laurel said it was like there were people standing around. There's like 100 people there. You had a full band, and there's this chick. She's up on stage and she's singing stuff that she's written, but then she's singing stuff that she's just coming out with on the spot. And people are up and dancing around, but in this super hippie, like ecstatic dance kind of way. And then people are singing along, and she's encouraging people to sing together. And she was like, it was this amazing interactive experience, which is nothing like a normal gig. And my first thought was, wow, it's like you've taken the best parts of the Wiggles and church, and combined it into your own original music. Now, how intentional is that? Well, you're obviously a big Wiggles fan. You've got the truth,
Obviously, you figured it out.
I found it.
You figured it out. I said it took. That's what we finally circled back to it. We were talking about it before. It always happens. You just got to let go. Trust the flow of the river. We find our way back. Intentional in the sense that I know how important it is for people to express themselves, and through the ceremonies and through the gigging, right? So there's one part that I used to think, yes, there's a moment for everyone to shut up, for everyone to drop in and listen to whatever the fuck's happening, because I'm connected to something and I can feel that and they can feel it and we're all in it together and we're like, whoa, what is happening? And I love that. I love that so much. And I love that. And I also love when people sing, when people dance, like that is our innate thing. We're meant to do that every day. Like apparently in Africa, there's no word for depression. Oh, we sing and we dance. Like, what do you mean? It's just like that's so that is what's lacking.
It's just rhythm a lot of the time too.
Yeah.
The melody comes from the voice. The rest is just a groove.
Yeah. And is lacking in our society. And it just came to me in all these different ways. So yes, it's intentional, and it's also the way it came to me. That's why I mean it's like I had to get hit over the head with it so many times. I'm like, but how does it go together?
Yeah.
Even this event, it was the 12th one or the 11th one of the year that I think that Laurel came to. And that's when I finally had a full band, because I'd often just do it just with myself, looping, and I'd get a special guest up or whatever. And this was like the
So you really shot for the stars.
full
with this
thing.
one.
And I had the whole stage set up with like a 8-piece band. We had backup singers, saxophone, like everything. And then I had another little rug on the floor where I usually am, because I'm there, and then there's a big circle. So the entire hall is filled with like yoga mats and blankets and pillows, and everyone has a nest. So that's the other part, right? It's like you go to a concert, you get to dance, you get to have the space to dance. What's your favorite part about it? You know, you're singing a lot. Oh, that bit where they came out into the audience and everyone sang, or that when the circle happened, and you know, it's just
Feeling
like
connected.
So yeah, having that the whole time, but then me playing the music the whole time. It's just taken a while for it to land, and it's like, wow, it is this thing. I still doubt it. I'm not going to lie.
Oh,
And
sure.
then Tiny goes, no, babe, it's the thing. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Thank
It's like, you sure? What if
you got to fish for, as a creative? You got to fish for compliments, because we have constant
We're
doubt.
constantly like, no, hang up the phone to that. I'm not. Yeah, but the way that has come together for people, like the things that I hear from people are insane, and you don't get to hear that as much just at a regular show. It's like you don't know what people have experienced, or they go home and you don't really know. You don't know the life-changing experiences people have. You do more so in a ceremonial space. So with this space, like people are constantly like, there'll be some people like wailing, like crying. Some people like having something come up, and that's the point. It's all welcome. So in any sort of plant medicine circle, like whatever is happening needs to be moved through and alchemized. There was this one time I was playing a song and it was channeled, and I was like, oh, whoa, what's happening here? And I could just feel, it was a song about letting go, and I could feel in the space, like sending it down to the earth. And I was like, whoa. And I started feeling it in my body. Like I can feel a lot of things. So I was like, whoa, this is really heavy.
Wow.
Okay, I'm not going to hold on to this. Yeah, I'm facilitating this, but I got to get this out. What's happening? So I just kept like sending it down, like intentionally. Like I think I even had to put my guitar down. It was looped at this point, and I was just kind of like, excited joining in with that, because I'm like, there is fucking shit.
Something's going on.
And then I knew it's just like, oh, it's still going. It's still going. Why is it still going? Oh, and then I could feel when it sort of fell or started to tail off, you know. And I was like, okay. Whatever just happened in that moment, yeah. And people are like, whoa. It's like, yeah. And then later they'll tell me about their experience, or how just so much stuff with people passing over, or, you know, spirits having visited them, or them finally being able to sing, or finally being able to cry for the first time in like 2 years, or just whatever, these really deep experiences. And equally just joyous and really hilarious, and people just fully
they come hand in hand. If you can let go of whatever it is, it's got to feel good.
Totally.
It's
and if we let ourselves
of
feel grief, that's where we find the happiness. So when the safe space, ultimately, safe space concert, to come to, where you're going to sing along, be whatever, and no one judge it, and it's just like.
Yeah.
You can have social anxiety. You can come alone.
Be the weirdo that we all are anyway, and pretending that we're not. That's probably the way to put it.
That's it. So that's the thing about church, and people started saying, and there was one lady that I found out, she comes every month. She actually was quite affiliated with it. I think she used to be a nun. Like, crazy story, this woman. She's amazing. But how accepting it is for everyone. Because the thing about church, there's a lot of great things. I've never, been religious in that sense. For me, it's always been spirit. It's like I still say God now. I've come to peace with that word, but it's very much like it's a feeling. It's a felt thing. And there was actually a cool thing that happened. I think it was the month before Laurel came. The stuff was going on with the Middle East. It was like that had just happened, and we just had that horrible voting day. You remember that day? Yeah. So it was just like
it was tense.
It was just tense. And when I say about the horrible voting day, I don't mean about what was voted. I mean what actually happened that day. Like I woke up and I just remember social media was just filled with all this hate. Yeah. And everyone's saying Australia's racist, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, guys. Like
such a disconnect between people
it's seeing it so clearly how messed up it is. And so I put all my attention that day onto this event, and I was just like, Spell Song's going to be really special tonight. I can feel
people need it.
People need it. Someone asked if we could do a prayer out to the Middle East and everything, and I was like, yeah, like leave it. Yep. Yes, absolutely. She's like, I was going to go to this rally, but I'd love to, can we do something? And I went, yep. And I went for a swim in the ocean that day, and I could feel it. I went, oh my God, we're all going to, whoa. And it just came over me, and I had this idea of how it was going to happen. So I ended up singing that Jewel song. I don't know. Do you know Jewel?
Yeah.
Hands. She has that song,
Yes.
Hands. So there's the bridge.
Yes.
And it goes, I will get down on my knees and I will pray. So that was just looping in my head while I was swimming in the ocean. I went, oh, something's happening here. And then that night, that spell song, I just said to everyone, all right, when we get to this bit, everyone get on your knees. Everyone
Still prayer.
do your version. Yeah, we're going to send out everything because we just had this ecstatic dance, basically, right? So I'm like, we're going to send out this. We're going to send that out. So I had no idea what was going to happen. I just felt like I knew it had to happen. So I get to this bit. All of a sudden, the room of like 50 people get down. So I was like, whoa. And then I was
Very
like, shit,
commanding position
now
you're
I'm
in.
like a preacher. Like, whoa, this is church. What happened?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I'm like looping it. And then I got down and I'm like, and in that moment, I can't explain the feeling. Like I looked out and there were people crying. There were people like in this, and I could feel this like mycelium network of love and like what I would explain as the feeling of God or spirit, more amplified than I'd ever felt. My whole body, it was just coursing through my whole body. I was like, what the fuck is happening here? But it was so profound. And what were they doing? Like intentional singing together. Everyone sang. So everyone just kept singing, I will get down on my knees and I will pray. The same line over and over and over for like 2 minutes. It's just this, like a mantra, the point of that.
Yes.
So the place we accessed. And it was just like, I'm like, wow, we still forget, right? We still forget sometimes why we're doing the things. It's like these moments happen and then moments are moments and then they're not there anymore and you're like, what am I doing?
It's really cool to hear you explain it from your perspective, because you can guarantee that the people watching you and experiencing the show that you were facilitating, it's hard not to put you on this pedestal and kind of almost a place of worship for facilitating, and then you hear your testimonial of vulnerability and like, I don't really fucking know what I'm doing, but I'm going with it, and it feels right. Yeah. And
you've got to listen to that unknown whisper. Yeah.
So where do you? This is what's really interesting, because a lot of the stuff that you're saying, there will be people who will listen to this kind of stuff, and it'll make them very uncomfortable, because you're talking about a lot of openness and vulnerability and woo-woo stuff, and it's...
But I got a goal too, so keeping it real.
Yeah, that's right. Keeping it thug. Yeah. But and it's uncomfortable because I think it takes a certain amount of self-awareness to be able to even be open to the experiences that you're describing. So, you're talking about, for instance, you're in the surf and you just start to feel something coming on. Now, I think that we're all capable of that, but you obviously are in a place where you are able to listen to it and let it come in.
Yep.
Whereas I'm sure that takes practice, and that takes a certain personality type and certain experiences that have allowed you to actually hear these things, because I would presume that it's quite subtle.
Yeah.
But everything in our life these days is not subtle. It's intense, densely flavored foods.
But the magic is always there's in the subtle whisper.
Yeah.
Like there's something that you just could easily miss.
So that's my question. What do you think that you have done that has enabled you to know when to listen and to try and not miss those things? Is there a practice that you do, or do you feel like it's just something that's you've always been able to do?
I believe in magic, right? As simple as that is, ever since I was a kid, I would like notice the synchronicities of stuff. And people would call me a walking synchronicity. Like I had a few on the way over here, and I was telling Laura, oh my God, like that, like noticing those things ever since I was little. So I feel like I'm wired to notice the little things and the nuances, which sometimes can be my detriment, right? It's like,
Sure.
whoa, you know?
Sure.
But in this case, it's just like, it's like the smallest little whisper or subtle. It's being open enough to trust. This is what I teach when it comes to flowing with music too. So with clients and in song circles, it's like, okay, don't think about it. Don't think about what you're going to sing, right? Just don't think about it at all. Can you trust yourself enough to when it comes that you're just like.
Make some noise.
Yeah, and something comes out, right? If they're open enough, they will access some really deep parts. And that's why we just dig through the layers, and sometimes it'll be like guitars on the wall and whatever they can see, and, you know, it's very mind. But under that, it's like however open we are to then have the confidence, I suppose, to be able to bring it through.
Yeah.
So
well, at least first step is being comfortable doing something that's not great.
Totally.
That's okay.
It's okay to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote this ballad, my first ballad I probably ever properly wrote, and I was like sat down and went, oh, this is going to be shit. I haven't written a song for ages and this is going to be shit. I give myself full permission for this to suck. And then it just one take came out, sent it to Tiny, she cried. I was like, okay, this is good. Great.
Cool.
It's like that, the permission piece is there. So yeah, I suppose just really listening, because I feel the magic in the possibility of letting something else lead in that way, right? So it's like, okay, I trust my ability to not have to know. So if I'm in a facilitation space, it's good to have an idea, because there's times when I don't, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've learned from that, because I'm like, your human can come online, you're like, oh shit, the channel's not open. Fuck, what am I going to do now? What song am I going to play? Like, you know, that can happen sometimes. So
the basic structure helps you to just ground you back to.
It definitely helps to just ground back in that way. But yeah, the openness to the magic and the possibility. Is that maybe still sounds a bit weird?
That's a great answer, though.
But it's just listening to
anyone
the
who's
whispers.
been around a kid, if you've forgotten that you were that and that stuff, you see it in kids. You know, it's and that's kind of what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
that at some point kind of gets squished out of you.
Yeah,
but perhaps what you're saying, it sounds as though there's a part of that you never really lost. You know, and I wonder too if maybe there's a trap where you can be where someone could perhaps work too hard to assign meaning to these synchronicities that they find.
Totally.
I think that can be a problem, you know, with numerology and things, and they constantly, you know, trying to find whimsy and
putting stuff
things.
in boxes too, man. You're just limiting yourself in a sense with that too.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's a tricky juggling act to be able to go to tune into the subtle things that you start to feel and experience.
Yeah.
And also not want it too much and try and make it into something that it's not.
Yeah, because you can have anything you want if you don't need it, right? Like that's the thing, or if you're not attached to it.
Yeah.
That's the part. As soon as you let go of the attachment, it's like, it happens all the time. And I'm like, I fix it. And then it's like, as soon as you let go, it's like,
yes.
Oh, this is the thing that it feels good, but I don't need it.
Yes.
Actually good, I'm centered now, or I got me. Like, it's like,
yeah.
Very curious feeling.
Laurel, my wife, is quite witchy. Yeah. She's very witchy, actually. It's, you know, we've been together nearly 13 years now, and there's so many times throughout our relationship where she has just known things that she shouldn't know, felt things that she's had no way of understanding, you know, like just little, and it's just so consistent. And I think that perhaps it's something that if it sounds like you've got a similar kind of witchiness to you. Yeah. And as you were saying before, like they don't burn you anymore. Yeah.
Yes. You're allowed to be witches now.
You're allowed to be witchy.
You'll just notice that pretty much all women are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's it.
That's one of the beautiful things about the feminine is that intuition that comes with the biology of being a female.
Yeah. There's knowing that you got to trust it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and I think there's as a man, it's observing that in my partner is something that I enjoy being able to trust. You know, I trust her, and I feel like my role is to try and sometimes I need to balance the chaos.
Yes.
Because with that, I think there comes chaos.
Yeah.
And that, but that's you don't get to have that intuition without waves of, you know, emotion and, you know, whatever it is.
And then you have two women in a relationship together and you've got to just trade off with the masculine pole.
Yeah,
right?
and I was going to ask, how do you feel about that? Like do you two settle into a place where one of you feels that role more than the other, or does it swing? You know what? Yeah, how does that work with you two?
It definitely. I feel like it swings when it needs to, and for me, like it's just funny in this particular relationship. For Tani, it's her actually relaxing, opening more into her feminine with being able to be softer, and she's very focused and do right. So it's like for her, there's been needing more of that to come through, and for me, I've been too like. In that we were all like relaxed that I need to do the masculine, do more, right?
Interesting.
So our dynamic fits really well when most of the time I'm taking that pole. But then there's times, you know, and I'm like, oh, like I feel floppy. And we've just, found this dynamic switch. Where we can just switch.
How cool.
And she's so good at being able to hold that pole. And I'm like, oh, wow. So I can, because I used to think the same thing. I'm like, how can I be a woman but be with a woman? Like I just couldn't really understand it either. Like, is it ever going to be able to, you know, or do I have to be a man in a sense, or do I have to, you know, and then it's like, wait. And she said to me the other night, she's like, I've been thinking a lot lately. Like, I love that you're a woman. And I was like, that is so healing. And that's part two being like, we're all masculine and feminine, right? So whatever we are, whatever we identify as, the polarity is important, I feel, in the relationship.
I agree.
And the ability
it's also inevitable, to be honest.
Yeah, and the ability to switch leadership and to trust the other, right? Yeah. To just go, oh, have you got the pole? All right, cool. Whoa, fuck. Because, like, when there's so much chaos in our, you know, in the magic, because that's the world. The world is chaos, right? We need to be able to have that grounding. And I've been able to hone that skill more than I ever have. I know I do it in my facilitation. People say I like hold this most immaculate safe space for them. Like that's always reflected back to me. So it's like, doing that in partnership and learning to, not let the ego come in. Or like it can be challenging. The times they're like, but I, okay, what would this masculine role be? Oh, right. Don't make it about me. Just
sure.
Just anchor here. Just stay here. Let it. Yeah, it's really cool.
It is cool, and it seems as though there's a place of, obviously, you know, being a woman, you come from a place of understanding that being with a woman that you can feel that I just would never be able to feel.
Yeah.
But so there's, even though it probably does switch and move around a lot more for you too. You're also more equipped to be able to observe that when that needs to happen. Yeah. Whereas me, I kind of get stuck in my, you've got a problem, let me fix the problem. You know, that's because that's what I do. That's what I'm good at. It's what makes me fulfilled. And she's like, babe, the amount of times Laura says to me, she'll tell me something and I'll be ready. I've got a solution. And she'll be like, I don't need any answers right now. Just sharing. I'm like, okay, cool. I can just hold space.
Great that you can say that.
And I sometimes need to hear it because I have answers that she doesn't need.
I do the same thing still too, right? It's whatever part comes on. You're like, all right, I'm just doing the listening thing now.
I saw there's this great meme I saw recently of someone had sent a message to their boyfriend and she'd said, I'm so devastated. I dropped my sandwich. And he's written back, I'm really sorry to hear that, babe. Are you ready for solutions or are you still in the feelings phase?
Yeah.
And I just thought that was perfect. You know,
totally.
he's learned this shit, you know.
I've seen that too. And communication is key, right? In those things, and especially when we notice these patterns and notice the parts, if we can just communicate and detach from that and not get sucked into the vortex that could be some stupid thing over nothing. It's just let's just name that and really get that,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, but I actually had a very interesting belief from when I was younger that masculine and feminine in general, like I don't know how I thought this, but it was like, oh my God, the point is that we're both, and it's kind of just like we're learning to be more masculine and more feminine, and we're actually integrating. I had this belief, I didn't understand that when I was younger. It's like, and then as life has progressed, it's like, whoa, this is actually in a lot of teachings and all of that, how it is in both of us, and like what that is, and the marrying of our internal masculine and feminine, but I
Yes.
just always felt that from a young age. Like, and I know that the masculine side for me is what's needed to be strengthened in my life. It's like really felt, and even just the right side of my body, like that's where the teeth, you know, missing. And that's like where I even crazy shit, but my left side of my hair grows longer. This just got cut like a few months ago and it's already this much longer on the left.
Interesting.
I'm like, ooh, like, you know, I always
what's
have these
going on
crazy
there?
questions about that. It's like, the strengthening that side. But yeah, polarity, important.
Yeah, totally. Is it something when you were a kid? Like how old were you when you were like, hang on, I don't think I'm the same as other girls. I think I'm into girls.
Well, I was probably around 13.
Okay, so your hormones are moving around.
And I had already dreamt when I was 5 that I married a woman.
Okay.
So it was just
Interesting.
like, oh. But then I just remember this vivid memory of getting in the shower. Like I just remember turning the water on and going, oh, I like this girl from school or this girl from soccer or something. And I'm a girl. She's a girl too. Huh. Feels normal. That was literally it. That was my process. Like that was the process of that. And I
just embraced it.
Yeah. And I've explored. I've never dated a man, or I've been on a date with a man, but I've been intimate with men, but I've never been in love with a man.
Sure.
So I've just but I have a lot of guy friends, and I feel like it's important for me to have even more of them as well to like keep, you know, I'm feeling like Tony got me a barbecue for Christmas. It's like, yes, doing this, like
doing man shit,
this.
you know?
Yeah. And I get to be all of that. Yeah. It's the whole question of that whole wave of like the non-binary stuff and just really being like, wow, this is so interesting the way evolution is happening for people trying to figure themselves out or how they resonate. And I just still, I think we get to be all of it. We get to be whatever we are, really. And I identify as a woman and that's in a relationship with a woman, but I also can call myself a man at times just because I'm just doing man things. Like,
sure.
You know, it's part of us. We're human, right?
Yeah, and well, that's it. I mean, and I kind of think like it's a nice place that we're at as far as, you know, 2024, where imagine being, you know, back whenever in, let's say, medieval times or whatever, when it's
Go back
just
to dragons.
Like, they'll kill you. They'll kill you for it.
Yeah.
What a time, you know? I mean, to be fair, everything was going to kill you back then, but the last thing you need is because, you know, the way that you feel, the person that you fall in love with is the wrong type of person.
And it's still illegal. Like we're going on a holiday to Bali soon and it's illegal. Yeah.
Illegal.
It's illegal to be gay.
I mean, that's even more ridiculous than saying it's illegal to take mushrooms, you know, like you
But what happens? I don't know. We've been making jokes about it. I'm like, so if we are holding hands in public, is that like, well, will we get interrogated?
How do you prove that we're gay? Where's the point where we get to be put in prison?
Totally.
Like,
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
What a trip, huh?
It has this like weird thing with the podcast. You feel like you could just really go there and talk about anything and not think about anyone listening.
Yeah, well, especially, you know, we're in this contained room. It's very comfortable.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like we're just having a conversation. You just don't see the microphone.
I know. Well,
remember that it's being recorded.
That's right. If it works well, then you kind of. And the interesting thing that I've found too with there's different phases, and they last for different amounts of time depending on the person. But it's pretty consistent that towards the end, when all the talking points that I've kind of, you know, done a little bit of homework on have gone, it gets interesting because we start to, you know, have discussions about things that we kind of know each other a little bit. You kind of get comfortable, and then it goes into weird places or places that I had no intention of talking about. Yeah, and I've never really had a conversation much longer than like 2.5, 3 hours. Yeah, but fuck, who knows what's beyond that? I think people are going to go to the bathroom and get on with their lives. Yeah, at that point,
end up making a series. Yeah. That's wild. But it's a great podcast, though, and a great idea for it. I remember I used to say that with my mates, different mates at times. Like every time we'd jump on the call together, it would be like, you know, those chat about everything. You're just like, whoa. Yeah. Like someone that gets it. Like, I'm like, man, we should be doing a podcast. Yeah. We should be making this a Zoom call. Well, or like a live that we put on Facebook and just have these chats like without any preparation because you just never know what's going to happen.
I crave it.
Cool.
Like, and this, you know, selfishly, I need this. I need these kind of connections with people, especially we've just met, you know, especially with a stranger. Yeah. It's a really beautiful thing these days to be able to sit down and have an uninterrupted conversation with someone that you don't know for hours.
Yeah.
Like there's so many distractions. It's kind of, you learn a lot about yourself. I don't know about you, but man, I come out of these, it's just with so much more understanding of who I am and what my place is in the world and my blind spots, you know, like learning something about someone else that I don't have in my friendship circle yet.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of go, oh, wow, what's that saying? The more you know, the more you realise you don't know. It's consistent doing a podcast.
Yeah, look at all these facets of humanity. What's going on over here? And there's, well, that's, if we're not growing, we're dying, right? And if we're like seeing, like uncovering all these different parts of ourselves and each other. Yeah. Here for it.
Well, thanks for being here.
Sometimes it's good to not talk as well, right? And to really just like, whoa. Yeah. But I'm a talker too. I just love that. It's like for me, it's through the voice, even over writing. It's just like through speaking stuff that can have a lot of epiphanies and things come through.
Yeah, there's. Are you familiar with Jordan Peterson?
No.
He's a psychologist. He's very controversial. People love him. People hate him. I think he's got a lot of great stuff to say. He's quite stern, so that can be quite off-putting. But more often than not, he's pretty on the money whether people like the way he delivers it. But one of the things that he talks about when he was a clinical psychologist is he was saying how people don't know how to think. So majority of my work when I'm sitting opposite someone who's come in for a psychotherapy session is to just let them talk, get them talking, prompt them and let them go. Yeah. Because, and you're saying the amount of work that is done through people speaking, they haven't been able to do it any other way. He goes, the only other way I encourage people to do it is write, do a journal. Yeah. But like when they sit and talk, exactly as you just said, people they figure out, because I think it's amazing how much people figure out their problems. Yeah. And all I've done, and they really think that I'm this great thing, because like, to be honest, you realise I just need to sit and have a space where they feel like they can figure out their own problems. Totally.
That's any leader or any teacher really is like sitting there so that you can do that yourself. Totally. We're just speak. It's like, it's amazing. I started doing voice memos instead of journaling for a period of time because I was like, oh, it's way better just to, and sometimes you have a friend or people that when they're talking just for them, but they need to. It's like, oh, you're just hashing something out.
Sure.
It's like, it's what we're there for in a way, to be able to let people do that. Yeah. The voice. Yeah. Very powerful.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, it's kind of telepathy, isn't it? This is another Terence McKenna thing. You make mouth noises. Yeah. And just happens because you understand the same language, my thoughts are now in your consciousness and vice versa. Yeah. And that makes kind of sense when you listen to people who speak other languages and you don't understand. Yeah. You can pick up subtle things. Yeah. But lately, it sounds.
We don't even need to say. Have you had more of that in your life? Just like just something I experienced a lot in the last year is just like when you don't speak or when you're around someone's field and they just ask you the thing that you're thinking in that moment. Like that it's always happened to me, but like I feel like it's turned up more. The more open we are or the less busy we are in our head or the more in tune we are with ourselves or each other in the space, it's like you just... Yeah, these superpowers we're talking about, they're real. Like
they are.
They're real. Yeah. We're pretty magical humans.
Yeah. Like way more magical than we are led to believe.
Yeah. And the human race is also quite catastrophic in a sense.
Yeah.
But I choose to live the magic way as much as I can.
Love it. Clearly it shows. Yeah. It shows. All right, well, let's call it. I think we've covered pretty much everything that there is to cover. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Trill. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.
Are you going to come to Spell Song?
I think I have to now. Yeah. I'm there.
Great.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.